Hello, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible about their operations. Let's begin by taking a look at the last 30 days of precipitation expressed as a percent of normal. So we're looking here to see kind of how precipitation may have impacted harvest at times. What we can really see here is that parts of the Corn Belt have been really quite wet over the last 30 days when you look at it kind of all sandwiched together here. We know that harvest is nearly complete across parts of the Dakotas, and sure enough, they've been relatively dry. But at times, especially the corn planting has been quite delayed in parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and certainly getting down here a little bit farther to the south in parts of Kentucky and Tennessee as well. So a wetter pattern overall over the last 30 days in this part of the country has kind of kept things a little bit behind average in terms of harvest with corn. Soybeans not the story, but with corn certainly is. If we kind of just zoom in over the last 10 days here into the Corn Belt, what we can see is that the eastern Corn Belt over the last 10 days has been quite a bit wetter than the western Corn Belt. And certainly on the night while I was making this video, which is early Thursday morning, we were still dealing with kind of the remnants of our latest system moving through parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, then getting off to the northeast and also going through parts of Michigan. So it was kind of a wet evening Wednesday night into early Thursday morning as these precipitation kind of continues to move on out into the north and east. It was also precipitating back here into parts of Nebraska, Kansas, this kind of area and through here. But overall, it's been a wetter pattern for the eastern Corn Belt over the last 10 days. Just kind of show you how far harvest is behind. This was through the late October update from the USDA. We can see that harvest progress in a state like Indiana was quite a bit below the 2012 to 2016 average, and certainly behind 2016. So with that as our backdrop, we want to be looking at where temperatures and precipitation are going in the coming days, as that will continue to impact how we get that corn out of the ground. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the forecast. First, we know that the last 7 days has been pretty cold, and what we're looking at here is temperature anomalies over the last 7 days. Essentially, we've had a pattern such as been a big ridge out west and a broader trough over the central and eastern part of the United States, keeping temperatures well below average for this time of year. So the question is, where are things going? Well, we're seeing a bit of a rebound, a bit of a change going through the next 5 to 7 days. What's going to happen is we're going to have a switch over in the flow and the low levels coming more out of the south and southwest rather than plunging in from the north. And that's why we see that by Thursday, honestly, our colder temperatures really just stay confined to the northern tier of states. We'll take a look at why in a few minutes, but we're going to be seeing rebounding temperatures across much of the Corn Belt. So look at this. Here's Thursday into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and even into Tuesday. In fact, it probably won't be until midweek next week, so probably Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, that we start to see some cooler air plunging back into the form of a trough into this area. And this is what's really dominating that. As we always do, we always look at the pattern. The pattern is the key in trying to understand what the weather's going to do. So here's our trough ridge pattern. Notice that when we start this thing off on Thursday, broad trough that really extends across the entirety of the northern tier of states. And that's why we really saw to start off, Thursday into Friday in our weekend here, we saw the cooler temperatures really confined to the northern states, Montana through the Dakotas and Minnesota. As we move forward, what we're going to see is by the time we get into Friday and into Saturday, a trough kind of plunges out here out west. This is going to be bringing some precipitation into the northwest, while the broader ridge tries to settle across the eastern half of the country. And that's what's going to return our southerly flow, bringing our temperatures back up, a little bit warmer than they have been. But we're going to take a look at what this means in terms of precipitation as well. Now, what I'm getting concerned about is, we're going to keep that warmer weather across, the southern 2/3 of the country getting into the weekend and through the weekend. But what we're watching here by the time Monday gets here is I'm watching this broader trough feature out west because it is forecast to kind of move through the flow of the jet stream and really bring in a big shot of colder air, let's call it Monday night through Wednesday morning. Across the Corn Belt, really getting into the eastern Corn Belt by early Wednesday morning. A little shortwave trough moving in there, but look, right behind it, little ridge pulls out, maybe warms our temperatures back up. Now, what I do see as we continue to move through the patterns, it really stays active, doesn't get blocked up too much. We just get trough after ridge after trough after ridge. And so that's an important thing to be kind of on the lookout for moving forward. Now, when we average it all out, let's look over the next month. This is the long-range projection by the ECMWF. That's the European model. Got a 51-member ensemble forecast, which means they run the model 51 times and give you kind of an aggregate, an average of all of that. And what they're really kind of cluing in on is that overall they're expecting the northern tier of states to carry a cool bias through the month, while the southern tier of states carries a warm bias. And that's all in thanks to the flow pattern of the jet stream, which we just saw kind of tending to stay in that trough pattern here. But I want you to know that it's not going to be cool every day this month. In fact, we are seeing a few times in the near term where warmer air will surge north. Of course, we're going to see it over the next few days. Looks like something into the second week, third week of November, another big push of warmer air. A little bit of uncertainty about that, but we're watching. But overall, when we just average it out for the end of the month, this is what I think we're going to be seeing. I think we're going to see a cooler pattern for the northern tier states and warm for the southern. And honestly, if I had to stretch this out through the entirety of winter, I think this is actually a pretty close picture to what we're going to expect to see for winter, although I would certainly bring down the cooler bias here over the Great Lakes states in the Ohio River Valley. We'll give you more and more updates about that as we approach our winter kind of seasonal pattern. If we add to this, what things look like in terms of precipitation, what I'm animating for you here is 24-hour chunks of precipitation through the next 10 days. Take it back to the beginning. Here's the stuff that's leaving us on Thursday, keeping the eastern Corn Belt wet. Remember, we're delayed across much of the eastern half of the Corn Belt, and certainly rain now at this point is keeping folks out of the fields. We can see that Friday continues to kind of be, Thursday into Friday continues to be kind of soggy. Looks like as we get into Friday and Saturday, things might try to dry out, but there's another system that we're watching. And the one that I'm starting to get concerned about is going to be coming through on Sunday into early Monday morning. It's this feature right in through here. Got a system developing going across the Great Lakes, and as it drags a cold front Sunday into Monday through this part of the country, we need to be on the lookout for some strong to maybe even some severe thunderstorms. I mean, that's what happens when you rebound temperatures, bring in some moisture, and then have a front come dragging through. But that moves on off. But what you've noticed here is that, again, on Tuesday, another chance for some precipitation here in the eastern Corn Belt, which means when I stretch this whole thing out, and I take a look again at the fact that we might be getting some really strong storms in on Sunday into early Monday morning, the whole of the eastern Corn Belt looks wet over the next 10 days, and that's what you're looking at right here. And just to kind of show you, the long-range European model picks up on the same pattern. So we're seeing some pretty strong agreement here. We've been talking about this now for at least 10 days, about this being the setup getting into this part of November, a wet eastern Corn Belt. Okay, let's take this and take it a little bit different direction. Let's head down, into the southern hemisphere. What we're looking at in the background there is a map that shows you the last 30 days of precipitation expressed as a percent of normal. And I've zoomed in over here on South America. And our story has been dryness in part of Mato Grosso, certainly drier the farther east that you go, and been very wet in the southern growing regions. And of course, we had that massive hailstorm hitting Cordoba in our last video update. So again, it's been dry, delaying things up here in the north, and wetter than average down here in the southern growing regions. I want to bring this up because we have been discussing a bit of a shift in the overall flow of what we call the South American convergence zone. What we're looking at now is that over the next 10 days or so, those very dry regions, so Mato Grosso's here, the really, really dry pockets that are in here in the eastern part of Brazil are setting up to have quite a bit of convective thunderstorm activity, bringing in quite a bit of showers and storms. So they're going to see a pretty big rebound in terms of their precipitation in the near term. While that's happening, the southern growing regions down here are not going to be seeing as much precipitation. So Brazil is kind of doing a little bit of a flip-flop on us as we get here into the first full week of November. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this forecast. Well, we hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast coming out on Monday. To get morning farm report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows you a snapshot of your field conditions each morning, go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for a free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our Sustainable Yield program or for growers who work with AD merchandisers. Look forward to talking again after the weekend.